Welcome back to another episode of Reusable Space Program. You find us on the Mun with the fuel truck making its first trip to the Mun tanker. Well, let's hope this goes well. Off we go. So we have Gwen out there just fueling up this Mun tanker because we want to get some fuel up into orbit. We want to try and basically stop making us dependent upon Kerbin because it's costly to get our fuel back from Kerbin. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So she's going to put a little fuel pipe across there, and then we're going to transfer the fuel across, and that takes a bit of time. She has to stand around waiting for that to happen. All of goes nice and easily. There we see. And so once it's finished, we just cut that bit out for you. She's going to detach the hose. If she can. Is she? No, she's decided to just ignore it and go completely over here. That's right, because there's two ways of doing this. You can actually detach from one end, or you can actually just go to the port where it comes from and just detach it there. Just leave it hanging. Just do that. That's how we go. There we go. I'm not sure that's the safest way of doing it, Gwen. In fact, I think it's a bit weird, but okay. Things could go horribly wrong there. Anyway, she's gonna grab all of her goods and stuff, and she's gonna get into the fuel truck, the fuel truck. Is that what we called it? Yeah. And while she's doing that, she didn't actually leave to a suitable distance. The Mun tanker just lifted off. This was a heavy lift off. You can see there we've got 4 engines on it. The standard tanker craft only has 2. This needs 4 because it has to get off the surface, and it uses all of them. You saw there, I sped that up. This is about 6 times faster than normal, and it took a while to get off the ground there. But once we're in orbit, once you're in orbit where mass is just about longer burns. In reality, it's not about the thrust rate and things like that. So there we are. We're just going to get ourselves into orbit around the Mun, and we have pretty much a full tanker there of fuel. You'll notice that we don't have much oxidizer. In fact, we didn't put any oxidizer on here because we've got oxidizer in orbit, and it weighs stuff, and we don't need to worry about that. We're already worried about the actual ability of this thing to get off the ground with all of its fuel filled up. So we're going to just take our time with it and see what it can do. We have got full monoprop. We've got a load of liquid fuel, but you can actually already see in top right there that we've actually used quite a chunk of fuel just getting off the Moon's surface and getting into orbit. This is not without its costs actually doing this. So, the bigger these things are, the more efficient they are, the more that we can actually get it from each of our transports, the better this is, because I don't want to be doing this constantly all the time. This is better than doing it from Kerbin, because Kerbin, getting a fuel tanker full of fuel like that from Kerbin, that's a lot of money, it's a lot of effort. This has cost us nothing. Now we've got it set up, we can do this over and over and over again, and it's basically free fuel. I actually think if we transported it back to Kerbin and landed the stuff on Kerbin, we could actually probably make a profit. But if we come short of cash at some point, that is something we can start looking into. So the Mun tanker is just going to approach Mun Station 1. It's going to dock there, and it's going to offload its fuel to the actual tanker craft that's on there, so that it is empty. We don't want this Mun tanker to ever be sitting around with fuel in it, because if it's sitting around with fuel in it that isn't its landing fuel, it's basically not being efficient. We need this thing to basically be going up and down, up and down, up and down, just as much as possible. So in between every mission we do, this thing needs to be getting fuel until we've loaded up. And we had a slight rub. There was a slight rub. The tiniest of rubs on the station. I'm sure the station's fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it was those circular balloon tanks on the bottom. They're strong, aren't they? I think they're pretty strong. They must be strong. I mean, they look like balls, and balls are made of rubber, and rubber's bouncy. So that's probably, we just used it to cushion our fall there. So, and there we go, we dock. So, after the slight rub, we docked okay. I should have actually retracted the solar panels before I went in. I didn't realise that both of them were open still. So we fuel it up and everything. We transferred all the fuel to the tanker craft, and the tanker craft is actually going to be heading back to Kerbin. It's going to go all the way off to Dawn Station, because we want to actually have some fuel around Kerbin for future missions. We want to be able to transport things from Kerbin to the Mun and back again, and so we need fuel at both ends of that just in case. It's actually more efficient if we do that. It means we can actually lighten the load on our craft sometimes if we need to, and once we calculate Delta V requirements, that's a nice easy one. So our little tanker craft there, which was it's quite, it wasn't full, but it had a nice big load of fuel, and that's the big thing. I didn't actually fill it full either, which I hadn't realised when I set it off, partially because we didn't have a full tanker load. The other problem is that if I filled that up with fuel, that would mean 2 trips for the mun tanker. I haven't actually thought about the logistics of actually taking into account launch payloads and stuff like that, which I should have done, but they're up now, so they're going to stay as they are. What we should have done is the mun tanker should actually have extra capacity so that once it gets to orbit it has a full tanker load of fuel, but we didn't do that. So this is going to come back into Kerbin orbit. What we're going to actually have to do is put up multiple of these tanker craft, I think, because we're going to need one just stationed at the mun base and one stationed at Dawn Station at all times to act like a mobile fuel tank, basically. So that excess fuel from the surface of mun can actually be just stored in one of these, and then when it's finally full, it goes, and then the mun tanker can unload into the next one that arrives straight away without waiting around. So we need to get a few more into those, and we'll do that in a minute. So this thing goes into basically Kerbin orbit, and then it's just a case of getting to Dawn Station. So we're just going to apply a little bit of thrust here and there. Now remember, this is the two nuclear engine version. It's cheaper, it's lighter, it's more efficient for us for those burns. The only reason that the mun tank has 4 is because it needs them to get off the ground. It's not actually efficient for us doing our burns with 4 of them in orbit. If you've got them, you might as well use them, but actually carrying around those nuclear engines is a lot of excess weight. So that's why we actually have 2 different craft in reality. So we're now going to do our little rendezvous around Kerbin. We're going to look for Dawn Station. Dawn Station, the newest addition. It's big and glorious and wonderful. It's got all the docking ports. It's got all the solar panels. It's not got all the space for Kerbals. We don't need a lot of Kerbals on it. We might build an extension that's got space for Kerbals, but we'll see about that. I think we might want to put science on it at some point. It's got the big docking ports there to allow us to actually add the science capability to it in time, but we will see. This is something we want to work towards. What I want is actually to maybe add something to it that we can use for future exploration elsewhere. I don't want to just have, like we did with the mun station. The mun station started out as the Kerbin station, and we moved it to the mun because, well, we didn't need it around Kerbin at that time. We needed a space around the mun, so it's been repurposed, and we'll probably end up repurposing that again. I've actually got plans for that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So here we go. We're coming in at Dawn Station there. We just stopped nicely just above the top there, and this craft's actually really nicely sort of balanced considering its size and weight. It is sort of really well balanced actually, and so we just bring it in, and this is sped up at about 6 times. I think it's 6 times, something like that. So you can watch me dock, because this was actually quite an easy one if I remember rightly. I say that now, it's probably going to go horribly wrong. We just bring it in, we level it up, pull in our solar panels, because I've learned from the mun situation, and then it is just a case of aligning our vectors, aligning ourselves, and starting to thrust in, and oh, we missed. No, it wasn't a brilliant one, was it? Great, not brilliant. Then I start to blame the fact my orientation's wrong, and I fix that, and there we go. There. So we have Dawn Station with some fuel on board. It's about time that we actually upgraded the mun station though, because if we're going to need to have multiple tankers on station to basically take, store and transport our fuel, we don't have many docking ports there, and the structure itself is, well, it's small and it's tight, and we've already seen that actually with the mun tanker coming up, it could have lost solar panels very easily. So we're gonna upgrade the mun station a little bit. We're gonna send up a new core. So just as we said before, we repurposed the old, I think it was called Alpha Station around Kerbin. We repurposed that and turned it to Mun Station 1. Well, we're actually going to turn Mun Station 1 into a part of a new station. It's still going to be Mun Station 1. It's just going to be, it's not going to be the core of that station anymore. We're going to set up a new core. And that core is pretty much going to be like Dawn Station, a little bit adapted. But before we do that, we've got to return the Zephyrus's main launch stage to Kerbin. You've seen this before. And this is, this is becoming standard fare for us. It does its suborbital hop. We fire the engines, get it in through the atmosphere. We're really looking to basically aim into the sea. We don't want to land on land too much with this, or if we do, we want to land on something flat. Now, it can pretty much land anywhere as long as it's not on the side of a mountain. This thing is actually surprisingly stable. The actual additional structural components on the bottom of it give it quite a lot of stability, but you still got to be careful, don't you? So up in orbit, we need to bring about the rendezvousing of the core, and we're going to give the job of moving that core to, and this is the odd one, we're going to give the core to cargo 1 and 2 to move because they're in orbit and we might as well do it. We do have a new pilot on board. That's somebody that's going to assist NACO, and that's Amelia Kerbin. She's joined the team. She's been drawn from drawn by the craving to explore the farthest reaches of the world, and the fact that Kerbin society is really shut down. You know, she's not particularly excited by that, shall we say? So yeah, so she's going to basically be on board this, and she's going to go to the core. She's going to join NACO around the Mun, and she's going to do some of the flying jobs there. And in the end, we're probably going to start reducing the crew around the Mun. We don't need as many people around there at the moment. We would like potentially to change the crew out on the surface, swap them out, put some new crew down there. But we again need to think about how to do that. We need to see what craft we've got available, what fuel reserves we've got. We've got a big load from the surface now, but again, until we're rich on fuel, we've got to still be careful. So there we go. That's the new core, and you can see it is very much sort of an adapted version of the Dawn core. It's got a lot of docking ports on it, and we're just going to bring in the Cargo 1, Cargo 2, and their job is going to be to hold it, but we're not going to set that off just yet. That is not going to set off just yet. It's actually going to stay in orbit for a little bit, because why have 2 cargo craft with their engines and sort of not... Oh, there we go. I was trying to get the engines positioned either side of the docking ports because I don't want them to clip in, and there we go, finally got it. What I could have done is actually rotated those engines and then put them back again, but I actually wanted to make sure that the exhausts were going to basically fire down between the docking ports. I don't like the idea of docking ports being cooked by nuclear engines. So we got one on. We're going to stick the other one on the other end, but of course we have 2 odd docking ports on this thing, so that's annoying. And this is one of the issues with Cargo 1, because we've got that smaller docking port. It has limited use in a world where we have pretty much only got medium-sized and large-sized docking ports now. So that the craft we have left with small docking ports are pretty much Cargo 1, our little moon sort of transport craft that's the original Mooner Discovery craft, and the 2 Fuelger craft that are still in orbit of Kerbin, actually. I think that's it. I think we might have we've got an old nuclear tug that's in orbit as well, which we need to get down at some point. But that's just sitting around waiting for me to get it. But that has a small, I believe, docking port on it. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much everything else is now moved up to the next size. So we managed to fire one of the engines by accident there. Note to self, disengage engines prior to doing anything, because craziness happens. So there we go, we've turned those top engines around. We're going to return the basically the second stage of the Zephyrus, because the Zephyrus is fully reusable. We can take that back down, put something else in it, and off we go. I'm sure this is going to be dead easy. Simple. I am trying to now start getting it to land at least on the same continent-ish as the Kerbal Space Center. We're landing in the water on the far side. It's not bad, you know. We can cope with that. However, we've got that core up. We actually want some extra fuel tanks up as well. We're going to use the cargo craft as fuel tanks up in orbit, but we really need to actually have some fuel tanks down on the surface because we don't have much capacity. So we send up a Vanguard. That's right, Vanguard goes up. I'm not going to show you the launch. You've seen the Vanguard launch before, and you've seen enough launches and things like that to not worry. So the Vanguard's going up. This Vanguard is basically carrying an extra fuel tank for the mining outpost on the Mun. The idea being that at the moment, we produce fuel on the moon, and we have a few small tanks for it to go into, and then we transport it across to our fuel truck. Well, the fuel truck doesn't stay attached all the time. It's not able. Well, it potentially could, but I don't want to have to dock it manually each time. I like using the fuel tank, the fuel pipe connections. So what I'm actually going to do is send up a fuel tank, a nice big fuel tank, and potentially it'll stay attached to the main outpost, or if we can start landing our moon tanker nearby. It has wheels because of course it's part of the moon system. It's got wheels on the bottom of it. We'll be able to actually stick it on the back. I think it should. I haven't tried it. I'm just hoping it can. We should be able to stick it on the back of the tanker truck, and it should actually be able to use it as like an extension, so that we don't have to make multiple trips anymore with fuel, because we do actually need to make some to fill up one of our craft from almost empty. Will require us to do at least a couple of trips with that tanker. It's limited in size, so I don't mind making the multiple trips, but having an extra thing on the back of it to do that would be a little bit cooler, isn't it? It's a little bit of a tanker train type thing. I think somebody in the comments posted something about that. Anyway, so there you go. This was done before the comment, but yeah, you can claim it. So before we do that, though, we're going to send up another craft into orbit. This looks like a Zephyrus. However, there's a little bit of a difference, which is it doesn't have a second stage. Yeah, it's a single stage Zephyrus. It's not going to go into orbit because its payload itself has the ability to put itself in orbit, because we are sending up Tanker Mark II or Tanker V2 or whatever you want to call it. So this is basically going to be one of the first sort of Gemini constellation, well, Gemini project style craft that we're going to set up into orbit. And this is a new design style that we're going to be doing. And there you go. And so we basically stripped it down. This is very much designed for on orbit. It's not designed for atmospheres. This thing would burn up in a heart shell, I think. We do land down the first stage of the Zephyrus in between the docking of this and the next craft. And as I said earlier, ideally you want these things to land in the water. However, it can land on the land, and we're not on the side of a mountain. It's a steep hill, but just about does. Oh, come on! Well, it's designed to take energy. It's designed to dissipate energy, obviously. In an elegant pirouette, and land carefully using its RCS so as to be in the most stable of states. So there we go. That was all designed and planned for, obviously. Yes, right. Moving on. Nothing broke. Anyway, so we're going to bring out the tanker V2, and this is going to join our little moon train now. So we've actually got quite a long moon train now. We've got the 2 cargo craft with their engines. We've got this tanker with 2 engines. So we've got 6 nuclear engines on this thing, and a whole world of fuel storage. However, this tanker doesn't have much fuel, but it does have a decent amount of delta V. So we should be okay to get that wherever we want to go to, hopefully, fingers crossed. And this docking, actually, I was terrified by it, because potentially if I decide to use the cargo carriers and their craft to actually do this docking, it's going to be a nightmare. But these tanker craft are actually quite sort of easy to align, and I'm going to make it look bad again, because I obviously choose to focus on the dockings that I don't do well at. And so there we go. We just go in, dock first time. Yeah, you see, look at that. Anyway, as this thing sets off, look at that, 6 nuclear engines, going to get there in no time. As this thing sets off on its way to the moon, next time we're going to be getting these tankers down at the surface, get some fuel flowing, get some fuel everywhere. We need lots and lots of fuel. So while this thing heads off to the moon, until next time, have a great one.